Hi Rick, how you doing?
Well, good morning, Keith. How are you today? I'm fine.
Good. We got quite the title of this next podcast. You ready for it?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, lay it on me.
Don't allow the weakest part of you to run your life.
Holy God. Wow. Oh man. Wow, that's a biggie. So the weakest part of me. Well, they're big, and they haunt me every day. The first is judging other people, judging myself, um, preferring things to be different. Two real huge billboards for weakness, preferring things to be another way, arguing with reality, complaining about gravity, or saying something like, in so many words, this is the metaphor for that kind of complaint, which is like, oh, 2 plus 2 is 4, but why does it have to be 4? Why can't it be 5 or 3?
Yeah.
It's the kind of attitude about life. And judging, the whole idea that something isn't right and that you, as the as the ultimate arbiter of what is right and good and beautiful, decide that someone else or some part of yourself is ugly and shouldn't be respected or whatever. I think that weakness, with when we do the practice, weakness becomes more apparent to us. Weakness pops right out and says, "Hey, this is the real reason why you're having some issues in life. It's not the issues you think you have. It's this obstacle that you have about judging yourself and judging the problem, not being grateful, not being conscious in the moment, not grabbing life." Let me give an example for myself. For years, when I started down the self-help path, and I had a long way to go, believe me, I had a long, long way to go. But when I first started, the reason I wanted to get into self-help was because I wanted to be, quote, happier, right? I wanted to be happy. And so what I wasn't getting was I thought there was a formula to it. So I kept looking for this thing called happiness, something like I could grab and put in my pocket, or, like you buy a car or you buy a thing, or you own something. But what I didn't realize, and it took me years, was that the search for happiness, trying to find happiness, is like trying to catch water. It's one of the chief sources of unhappiness, right?
Yeah.
What I've realized is that happiness is a natural byproduct of all of the things that come about when you do the
Mm,
practice: the
yes,
self-examination, the
absolutely.
monitoring, the judging, the monitoring your resentment about how reality works.
Mm,
When you get rid of those things, there is no search for happiness. Happiness ensues. It's the process of unloading all of the garbage that brings the happiness. And it's also a lot to do with freeing up those obstacles so that you can engage in what your true being is. And your true being is nothing more than love.
mm.
And by love, I mean attraction to things that make sense to you. So in your case, it's working for other people. You are other oriented. You want to help other people. For the docs at Mayo's, it's the health of others. The point is, when you free yourself from those inner obstacles, those things are the real burden to finding happiness. So I guess when weakness comes, and it comes every day, I was weak here 10 minutes ago, and I'll be weak when the camera goes off again. When weakness comes, we have to remember that that's a signal that you can practice, that you should invoke your practice and begin to realize that all of the things that you're complaining about, all of the wishes that you were hoping would come about and have not, have nothing to do with happiness. The happiness comes when you let all the obstacles that get in the way of happiness go.
Absolutely, Rick. I love that. And when I think for me about the weakest part of me running my life, I mean, and for other people, it's a lot of, it could be some examples might be loneliness, right? They choose a mate, or instead of working on themselves, they choose somebody that they're responsible now for making them happy. And so, or you may stay in a relationship longer than it might benefit you. It could be fear of rejection, needing to be liked. I know a lot of people that will suffer in friendships or get less than what is in their best interest in the relationship because they need to be liked. I think for me, what has run my life has been when the weakest part of me has been this need to be right. I would say that has probably been it. Like my way is the only way, and anything that threatens that is obviously an enemy, whether it becomes in a competing business. But there's no competition. Like if there's another health space that is opening up in the same like zip code, cool. Like I want them to help everybody. That's the new me. Everyone else, the old me is looking at what do they offer that we don't offer. We do it better, or they don't really get it, or okay, they're only working on the physical side of things. I'm working on the whole being, like all of that stuff, to where you start to compare and judge and discount what other people are doing. That's the need to be right in me. That's that superiority that feeds my ego. And I'm constantly aware of it, of there are no external enemies. That's none. If there is a problem, the problem is not out there. It's in here. I mean, that's just life showing up out there.
That's right.
It's me inside. And so working on myself. And for the longest time, I didn't understand that. And I was in the service of trying to control and resist the reality of what was going on externally. And it just caused a lot of suffering, and it was running my life. Fortunately, I got to the practice soon enough that it wasn't ruining my life. But you do it long enough, that's what's inevitable, is it ruining your life. And I'm just super, super grateful for that. And I just I was on a path before taking on the practice that was going to lead me in that direction. Unfortunately, you came into my life at the perfect time. We have friends who were on a similar path, and we just really became an inspiration to each other. So much so that we almost didn't have to correct the other person. We would literally actively go seeking and talking to each other to help us, so that that weakest part of us, that insecure part of us, the part of us that needed validation, or in some cases a friend who couldn't be alone, or me needing to be right, we would guide each other back to the path, and that has really been helpful to me. Otherwise, as I mentioned, the weakest part of me would have been running my life, period. I've seen people who have thrown their hat in the ring for promotion, and somebody else got it. And in their mind, I guess it was a rival. And instead of like working through that, they went into a different direction. And I'm not saying don't go into a different direction, but don't do it because you don't like the other person. Do it because, hey, I use it as an opportunity to work on yourself, so the lower part of yourself can be eaten away, and that you come back to serving the mission. I'm all like, when I see people in environments that are difficult, like managements or leaders that are very difficult, but they stay because they care about the people. I mean, they really care about the people. That impresses me so much, because it's so easy to leave when you don't get what you want or what you think you deserve. And as long as you're not in any kind of physical danger, I really want to use that opportunity to work on myself. So that part of me that needs to be acknowledged and needs to be validated, that all of that needs to be eaten away before I move on. Now, once that's gone and I no longer feel that holding me back or running my life, then okay, if I choose to leave, then I'm leaving, but I'm leaving in a completely different state than I was before. So, and that's an example of me not allowing the weakest part of me to run my life. What are your thoughts, Rick?
Well, I agree with all of that, Keith. It's a beautiful thing that you just laid out for folks, and it's great to hear you talk about what you find is your own obstacle, the wanting to be right. Mine is judging other people. I think part of what the practice does is it helps us not only identify what our weaknesses are, but it also helps us with that search for happiness I was talking about earlier. It's not actually an intentional looking for happiness, but that process of the practice leads to happiness. what it led to for me, and I treasure this every day, is the idea that when you can see what your role in your own weakness is, what those weaknesses are, there's a lightning that opens up in your heart. And you'll realize that this present moment right now, what we're doing right now, this
Yes,
is filled with joy and happiness.
absolutely.
The trick is you got to be attentive. You got to be attentive to see it, because usually we don't. We're focused on that judging other people or
Yes.
being right or wanting to be liked. You let go of that. And that opens up, that creates space for the present moment realization that this is a joyful, happy time in this moment right now, this instant we're sharing it right now. That's a profound step forward in my view.
Mine too.
And if you can
Mine too.
connect enough of those, right? So every moment is a, you know, it's now, it's now, it's now. So you're always conscious in the present moment. And you know, when you find yourself, for me, when I find myself anxious, what that is a signal to me about that I'm worried about the future. When I find myself feeling guilty, then I'm realizing I'm living in the past.
Right.
And so when you can get rid of both of those and not have any kind of guilt, anxiety, just a sense of well-being, that's a present moment that's full of joy and happiness. And that's where the practice leads, particularly in meditation and after you finish a workout and when you're with people who are kind and you want to be kind and want to be like them. Those are precious moments where the idea is to string enough of them together so that becomes your life.
Absolutely. And they're always available in the present moment.
Always. It's
Always.
always a choice. You just have to be attentive. You have to be conscious, right?
Yes.
You have to be present.
Yes. Absolutely. Rick, thank you so much. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Thanks for a great show. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.